Welcome everybody. My name is Sharon Pelech, and I have the joy to be the chairperson today, as Jackie McLeish is here, as well as offer a brief talk at the beginning. This morning, just to kind of give you a little context of, I'm going to be doing a talk that I created about a year ago. I apologize if you've heard it before. I've only presented it once before, but just a little background. I don't know about you, but 2026 has seemed to start off a little on shaky grounds, and it's been a little upsetting watching what's happening in the world. And sometimes when all that's happening, there's this feeling of hopelessness and a feeling of what can I do? So I wanted to do a talk, and it's about a little dog that didn't have a good life, but the message, hopefully at the end of it, is one of hope and so forth. So I'm going to just share my screen because there's actually a PowerPoint presentation with this and a short little video at the end. So can everyone see it okay? You're good?
Yes.
Okay, and you can hear me? The title of the talk today is Alba, the dog that saved the world. And like I said, I wrote this a year ago, and this week I just thought it was really important to share it again. So again, I apologize if you heard it before, but this is a story that's a really important one to tell. Like I said, I don't know about you, but I've been struggling with the news by feeling overwhelmed. I listen to the news every night, which is probably not a good thing, but and I make the mistake to go on Twitter and um, to read how cruelty and corruption seems to be everywhere. For example, the threats from our once closest ally in Canada to take over a sovereign state politically or to destroy us economically, a call for our provincial government to be investigated and not with teachers being forced back to work, people not being able to get the health care they want, people being deported, war in Ukraine, starvation in Africa that doesn't even get airtime. The list is so long. So, as a person sitting here in Lethbridge, Alberta, with no power, no connection, what can I do? Now, more importantly, what the connection is for today is what is a spiritualist who should be helping bring goodness and help people connect with their higher selves, as well as the recognition that we are all connected as one with the divine spirit. How can we make sense of all this? And what can one person do in the face of all this? So, fortunately, spirit works in marvelous ways, and I found the story of Alba, a little dog in Thailand. The beginning of her life is hard to hear, and I apologize if it's upsetting. And I'm not going to share the pictures of that part of her life, but of the 2 weeks that this story is about. So this is Alba. She's the funniest little dog you've probably ever seen. So I'll tell you about her story in a minute, but first I want to share with you how I came to know about her. About a year and a half ago, I was scrolling on Twitter and I saw a tweet by Niall Harbison, an Irishman living in Thailand, who's on, and this is a quote from his website, a mission to save 10,000 dogs a month. And he talks about how they found two husky dogs abandoned on the streets of Thailand and how they rescued them. Now think about it, two husky dogs that are built for the Canadian or the Arctic and the cold, living on the streets of Thailand. So Niall and his team took them in. One of the huskies was pregnant, and so she had her puppies. They cared for them both for about 6 months and all the puppies. And then about a year ago, the two dogs, Prince and Bowie, were adopted to families in countries where they're better adapted. One's in Ireland and one's in Germany. So this is one of the dogs that have experienced snow for the first time in her new home in Germany. So since that initial post, I began following Niall and the work he does, having been angered and ashamed about how people can treat animals, and also amazed at the work that Niall does every day. In fact, his Instagram site states the month of February he had 6,000 dogs sterilized, 30,000 meals to street dogs served, and he was building a hospital on his site where he keeps injured dogs and help dogs be rehomed. So that was just February last year. So this brings me to Alba's story. So this is Alba shortly after being rescued. Beside her is another longtime resident and former street dog named Hank. These are the words from Niall's Instagram site about Alba. And he quote says, I sat bolt upright in the bed the moment I saw the first photo. I get a lot of dog messages from people requesting help, but this was something at a whole different level. I saw this at 6 a.m. and although we were overcrowded with dogs, I knew we had to act fast. Alba had spent her life chained to a plastic chair outside and was so starved and emaciated she was literally a walking skeleton. He says, it was a complicated situation. Believe it or not, we actually had to negotiate to get her as she was on private property. In situations like this, all that matters is getting the dog out of there and getting it treated. Everything else can wait. So as soon as we rescued little Alba, I knew she was so sick that she wouldn't be suited to the Happy Doggo Land, which is where he keeps and treats all the dogs. We had to have great care there, but there was a little girl was at death's door. So he brought her home to his own home, and this is his home here. To be brutally honest, he said, I thought she would die, and I didn't want her to do so alone in a place she didn't know. I thought she could die in peace with me and Hank. I called her Alba, as it means sunrise in Italian and Spanish, and I desperately wished she could see the sun come up at least 2 or 3 more times. That was 9 days ago. So every day, Niall would post pictures of Alba at the sunrise. Emaciated, she would go for a little walk and sit and enjoy the sunrise. And the other thing she loved to do was smell any little flowers that she saw. Niall was working closely with the vets to get her fluids and get her eating. Some days she would just have chicken. Other days she would just sleep and not be interested in eating at all. Niall says, Alba should really be in an emergency vet clinic, but no such thing yet exists. He's actually built one now. Instead, she's on my couch and she's shuttled to the vets when needed. I find the mental stress a lot in these situations. To me, a dog's life feels every bit as important as a human life, so the ups and downs take a toll. The easiest thing to do would be to send Alba to a professional hospital or even have her stay in a kennel, but from that initial photo, I could never do that. With such a hard battle ahead, she needs every advantage on her side, and I firmly believe a little couch in her own home is best for her. For me personally, it also helps me why I do this. There are unfortunately hundreds of other Albas out there, so her suffering beside me as I write this reminds me to work faster and think bigger to help them. So every day, whenever I could, I would go onto Twitter and Instagram and see how Alba was doing. Some days were good, some not very good. And about day 9, Niall was actually becoming cautiously optimistic. He says, I'm generally not sure. As I write this, I give her a totally unscientific 30% survival rate. That is just my gut feeling, seeing her over the last 10 days and talking to all the vets and experts. This photo is of her this evening on a little jaunt around outside the house. She's very perky and absolutely wants to enjoy this new life she has found. The only question is if her body will allow her. 30% is a lot better than the 10% I thought initially, and she's still standing tall, getting ready to see her 10th sunrise tomorrow morning. All we can do is take it one day at a time. We'll take it every day we get. So this is Alba, one of the sunrises or sunsets that he would take her out to. And so every day he would post different times of them being out to see the sunset. So he says every day they would go out for a walk to see the sunrise. I was not, and to be honest, I was not the only person that was cheering her on across the world. Nala writes, Alba has a living legacy that inspires kindness. She has people checking in on her progress, sending kind messages. She brings out the best in people. I would love nothing more than Alba to live. I've watched her every tiny movement, willing it to happen. The reality is, though, that live or die, Alba has had a life of meaning since she has arrived. Dogs live in the moment, and I can tell that although her body aches, she's a happy dog. Somehow her tail won't stop wagging. So he says, thank you for all the kind words and support. At the end of the day, I often sit with her and read her some of the nice comments people send. I think it helps. Have a lovely weekend. Myself and Alba will see you tomorrow. After day 10, Alba seemed to be perking up, being able to eat and sleep a lot every day with her nurse and constant companion, Hank, seen here. But then she took a turn for the worse and was not able to keep any food down. And on day 14 of seeing sunrises, she passed away. I had actually come home for a quick hour between meetings and went on Twitter as I was sitting and making for my lunch to see how Alba had been doing. And I read the news. I was devastated and I cried like I hadn't for years. William actually came up from downstairs and he was like, what's wrong? What's going on? I said, why are you crying? Because I was doing the really ugly cry for a street dog that I'd never met. So Niall says, a dozen of us tried everything in our power to save Alba. No stone was left unturned. If she could have survived on well wishes, prayers, crossed fingers, kind comments, she would have been the first dog to live to 100. He says a couple days before she passed, he'd gotten some bad test results. The vets told me they didn't know how she was still alive. Sybil, my friend, who's a human doctor who'd been helping lower her voice, said she's not going to make it. So I did the only thing you can in that situation, which was to straighten Alba's bandana, take her out to the sunset, and I told her they were all wrong. That evening, Alba had a small portion of tuna and kept wagging her tail. I rejoiced the next morning when she ate some more tuna and kept it all down. We were going to beat the odds. But that evening, my world fell apart when down the side of the sofa I found two little piles of tuna, not even 1% digested. I picked her up and took her to the hammock, and as the sun set and could feel her highly irregular heartbeat, her body had weakened. Myself and Alba made peace with the world. Tomorrow would be the last sunrise. So, what made Alba so special? Because as I started, I said the world feels like a dark place at times. So much anger and division. The vitriol online can feel exhausting. I think so many of us are looking for something positive, in our lives to cling on to. For the last 2 weeks, that something was a pure and beautiful soul. That was Alba. What I loved seeing were the comments under the posts about her. People from different countries, religions, political viewpoints, and all walks of life, seeing the good in a little street dog from Thailand and willing her on. Despite all our differences, maybe we aren't as different as we all think. People often ask Niall, how can you keep going when you see such cruelty? Well, the answer is that I see 10 times more positivity and love than I do cruelty. So she died. Alba was so loved because she brought out the very best in so many. She was so pure. She died knowing love, happy faces, new friends, and many beautiful sunrises. Alba died a very happy girl. As Niall says, more than anything with her clean fur, her clipped nails, her stylish bandana, and an army of well-wishers, little Alba died with the one thing she didn't have 2 weeks before, dignity. And then Niall posted, and I quote, myself and Hank miss her terribly, as do many people around the world. Whenever you see a little sunrise or sunset, think of brave little Alba. And so with that comment, another miracle happened, one that I'll play for you right now. So within a week, over 2,000 people sent videos of their dogs welcoming the world at the sunrises. So just what I want to just end with is that from the courage and love that Niall showed this little dog and thousands of others, people were touched and inspired. Even though we can easily get paralyzed with not being able to see past the terrible things in the world, that we have no way of making change, Alba reminds us that actually we do. Maybe to one person today or to one animal, it might not be much in the world, but it means the world to that person. Niall gave Alba love and dignity for 14 days of her life, and this feat has touched thousands of people around the world. So what does this mean about spiritualism? This brings me to a quote I've used before. Let me leave that thought with the answer that Gary Schwartz makes in his book called The Afterlife Experiments, a book that chronicles a series of scientific experiments on the top mediums in the US, including people like John Edward. And he asks, imagine one day in the not too distant future, you pick up a newspaper and read this headline, "Science proves human soul lives forever." What if death was not dust to dust? but energy to energy. How would that impact your life? You would realize and believe that life in your physical body reflects just a brief moment in time, that your time here on earth is for the purpose of love and compassion, and for you to honor the many gifts you have received by learning how to give to your family, to your friends, community, and the world as a whole. And that as the caterpillar eventually becomes a butterfly, you too will in time be able to take flights in ways and yet cannot fathom. So for me, I had to ponder this and think about Alba and the impact she had on me. If we can do what we can in bringing kindness, joy, love, and understanding to one being, we do not know the ripple effects that may have. Knowing that our life does carry on and that cruelty can be fought, one kind act at a time. So I'll leave the final words to Niall, and then I'm just share kind of what's been happened since that year. And he says, seeing the good in people, and I quote, I can say with absolute certainty that if it wasn't helping the dogs, I would not spend much time online. Everybody seems so angry and divided. What I find so amazing with dogs and with Alba in particular is how she brings people together with overwhelming kindness. He says, someone sent me money to buy Alba more salmon. A little girl and her mom sent me a video message to play for Alba. Every post I share about her has well wishes from all over the world. Vets send detailed advice. People message me saying they can finally go sleep once they see if Alba has survived another day. The Happy Doggo team all want to come and sit with her on their days off. So with so much doom and gloom around, it's amazing that a sick and a little abused dog in Thailand trying to get back on her feet is what unites people in their kindness. That's Alba for you. So since she's passed, which was a year ago, what has happened? A commercial-sized kitchen named Alba's Kitchen has been created on Happy Doggo Land, so over 1,000 street dogs a day get fed. Niall has written a best-selling book talking about his work with dogs, his recovery from addictions, and his constant struggles with depression. The book is called, I think he stole the title from me, actually I don't, but it was Tina, the Dog Who Changed the World, which is one of his first dog, and he outlines his work and how he became working on that, on saving dogs. And he's now actually has a new edition for kids. So I sent that to my daughter, who's a grade 2-3 teacher. He had a tour that included a stop in Vancouver with Jan Arden. He has built and is running a field hospital created on Happy Doggo Land that is not only doing sterilizations, but vet care for injured street dogs. And they're currently in the building a big veterinary building to make it even bigger. He's been meeting with global organizations and countries, including Brazil, which has now have laws protecting street dogs. And most importantly, all those thousands of people who were touched by Alba have a sense of love and hope, and that by not giving up, not getting overwhelmed by all the negatives, that we can make a difference in our day-to-day lives. And we have no idea the ripple effect that this can have. So thanks to Niall and his team for bringing joy every day. And thank you for Alba for helping us pay attention to the beauty of every day and desire to make the world more joyful. Okay, well, thank you for listening. I hope that inspired a little bit or made you be thankful, be able to think about things that we can do amidst times when it seemed to be overwhelming.